Welcome to another episode of Outliers, an examination of the all-time greatest ads from some of the most legendary e-commerce businesses. Today, we're going to be diving into Travis Mathew, an incredible apparel company with some truly outlier ads. And I'm proud to announce that starting today, this series is going to be brought to you by Motion app. Motion plays a critical role in what we call volume enablement at CTC. That is the system, processes, and tools that allow us to take more quality shots on goal. And as we examine in this series, volume matters, and how many shots you take increases the likelihood of the outliers that you can achieve. Let's dive in. As always, you find me right in the middle of a scatter plot that's showing you the spend per ad of an incredible brand. And that little dot, that one right over there, that's what we're diving into today to understand what made that piece of creative better than all the rest below me. And today I'm excited for us to dive into Travis Mathew, an incredible apparel brand that is now part of the Callaway family and has been part of the CTC family for a long time. And today we're going to be dissecting over 3,500 ads that they have spent money on across the last 3 years, some with us and some before us, and begin to understand what created these unique dots that significantly outperformed every other piece of creative. And then what do we do in light of that information? As always, we're going to be dissecting both the creative components of those ads, as well as thinking through the creative methodology and process that allows us to respond to the data and the information that we discover in this process. For reference, Travis Mathew is an apparel brand that began with its roots in the golf space. It began as a men's golf brand, really focusing on polos and apparel, and has since expanded into women's and youth and shoes and accessories and all sorts of different categories as a business. It's an incredible brand with beautiful product, beautiful photography, amazing assets to work with that all contribute to developing this kind of ad performance. And because we want to be data-driven with this process, let's begin with an analysis of looking at the performance of these 3,500 ads. As usual, I'm going to draw your attention to the reality of this scatter plot. On the bottom, on the x-axis, we have date that the ad was launched. On the y-axis, here you can see the amount of money spent per ad. It gives you a visual representation of just what an outlier some ads are. And in this case, a little bit about the composition of these ads. We have an average spend per ad in this account across 3,500 ads. This is above average in terms of when we look at this series, in terms of how much spend per ad a brand is getting on average. The median is much closer to, and the mode is. We use all three measures of central tendency to tell us as much as we can about the composition of the data set. And when you see a deviation between the mean and median in this way, what it means is that there are some top-weighted ads that are significantly raising the average, and the median might be more indicative of a more common outcome. We're going to cover more of that as we look into a histogram of these ad spends in a moment. In addition to that, the max ad, the outlier there, has spent. And a new feature we're going to bring into Outliers today is we're going to talk about what we call high-performing ads. And we're going to define those together as high-performing ads are those that are one standard deviation above the mean. So if the standard deviation of this data set is, then a high-performing ad we're going to define as any ad that has spent more than. And this number here is what percentage of ads launched are categorized as high-performing. And for Travis Mathew, it's about 1.7% of ads perform one standard deviation above the mean. Now, when we look at this scatter plot, we obviously see this dot that is substantially far and above everything else. And if you've seen my previous episodes, you're not going to be surprised to find out what that is. And we're going to take it and we're going to toss it aside, actually, because this dot, as is commonly the case for many brands, is simply your DPA feed. I'm going to continue to show you this over and over again in this series because I want to illustrate just how important your product catalogs are to your ad account and how much value can be created simply off of continually having a healthy, fresh, connected data set that forms the foundation of your ad count in terms of dynamic product ads. But if we take that ad and we throw it out and we say, okay, we want to exclude from consideration any ad that is in the form of a dynamic product ad, and we look at only ads that are graphic representations or videos or assets that were designed and deployed through the ad account. What we see here is that this individual ad at about spent is the outlier in the account still. You can see a little bit more disbursement of the scatter plot than you see here. But as a reminder, the reality of Facebook advertising, and this is the whole point of this entire series, is that begin to help you to think about the game that you're playing, is that most ads don't work. Most ads don't perform at an outlier level. Most ads, in fact, spend minimal amounts of money and a median level of about, even inside of a brand with this much unaided brand awareness and credibility in its space. Okay, I wanted to pause for a second and show you how you can participate in this kind of analysis for yourself. I mentioned at the top of the show that we are partnering with Motion App to bring this series Outliers to you. And the reason we chose to do that is because Motion App has been a really important part of our workflow here at CTC. We use this to take more quality shots on goal. If we're learning anything in this Outliers series, it is that the amount of quality ads you create has an important bearing on the outcomes that you generate. So if you want to start incorporating this kind of analysis into your business, let me show you how you can do this using Motion App. So the beautiful thing about Motion is that it's going to integrate directly with your Meta account, pull everything in, and allow you to analyze ads really quickly. So one of the things I hate about Business Manager and the general Meta API, if you've dealt with APIs at all, is that it often is slow and runs into a bunch of issues. So this is a way that you can help to speed this up. So I'm looking right now at the last year for every ad that we've run for our brand Bamboo Earth. And you can see right here, boom, here are my outlier ads by spend. So you can see right away, I have everything that I've run, over 1,000 ads that exist. And right here is my top performing ad of all time. So if I want to start to analyze, okay, what made this an outlier ad? What can I do to break apart and understand and analyze its impact? Boom, it's all right there. And if you want to do the calculations for developing your mean, median, modal, max, high performing percentages, you can easily export all of these ads into a CSV that looks just like the one we went through in the episode to get you to this level of analysis. It's all there for you. And Motion is a critical and easy to use tool to help you answer these kinds of questions. It's as good a creative reporting as you'll find in the industry. It's important to our process here at CTC, and I'm thankful to have them partnering on this message. It's super cool because if you want to layer in additional things that you don't want to just see, hey, I just don't want to see spend, but I also want to see the efficiency, or show me the CPM that I was paying for those ads over that time. All of that is easily and instantaneously available to you. Super seamless, great interface, awesome tool. So with this series, what I want to consistently do is show you the insight generation examples from other brands and then give you the practical application. And Motion's a big part of how we use that and generate these insights for ourselves. I'm even working with them to try and get some outlier level reports so we can get that histogram and the scatter plots incorporated into here. So hopefully that's coming soon. I'll be able to show you that in the upcoming episodes. Check them out, motionapp.com. Grateful to have them a part of this series. So let's take a look. What is this ad that has spent was launched on April 3rd of 2023? You ready? I think you might be surprised. It's this ad right here. So one, I bet you didn't even know that Travis Mathew sold shoes, right? It is a newer part of their product mix. But what's really important about this product photo is that, as is the case very often in the apparel space, simple, direct product photography is a really critical component to selling the product itself. There is no long form explanation needed for what a shoe does or how it works or the features and benefits, as is the case in many different product categories. It is very common in apparel to find that product photography, still imagery, does a lot of the bulk of the work in the ad account. The other thing to keep in mind inside of a business like this is that moments, drops, collections, and seasonality all play a big role in, one, how long an ad may run for, but also the kinds of things that drive sudden change in performance is related to the release of new product. Now, in this unique case, and this underlies a point that I want to make about performance over time and how hard it is to predict what ads will actually generate the outcomes that are truly outliers, is that visually, there's not really anything super compelling about this ad. In fact, there are many like it in the ad account, very similar deviations of this in terms of selling this footwear. And I'm not convinced that there's anything truly special about the layout or design. You see that there are multiple colors. It's pretty clear the style of the product. It fits the idea of an everyday, all-day shoe, good for many occasions. But the key here that I want us to look into is the date, April 5th, 2023. And this is where we begin to dissect and understand the core drivers of outlier performance. So, what is unique about that date? Why does April 5th, 2023 matter for Travis Mathew? Well, April 6th was the start of an event in 2023 that many people care about in the golf world called the Masters. The Masters is the biggest golf tournament of the year that has a ton of eyeballs and attention on it from people in Travis Mathew's core target demo. And that year, 2023, was unique for the Masters for Travis Mathew in that one of their sponsored athletes, Jon Rahm, won the Masters. And on April 9th, as you see here, Jon Rahm was crowned the champion of the Masters, donned the green jacket, and that period of time drove an immense amount of attention for Travis Mathew because he won it wearing their apparel. And for the subsequent weeks following that event, there was a significant lift in revenue for Travis Mathews. And the beneficiary of that sudden change in attention was not the new ads that were put out featuring Jon Rahm or any celebration of him. It were ads that were already in the ad account featuring their best-selling products of the moment. Those ads captured a disproportionate amount of value and attention in that time. And this shoe ad was one of those ads. And so in that period of time, there was an immense amount of value accrued to this individual piece of creative. The point that I'm making here is that when we think about ad performance, so often we focus on the visuals contained within the ad, the font, the hook, the style. And while all of those things play somewhat of a role, so often the defining attribute of success is the soil in which they are planted, the context in which the ad is served. And it is very hard to replicate that result because if we turn this ad on today, same piece of creative, it produces a fundamentally different outcome than it did in the period where there was all this attention and awareness associated with Travis Mathew. Now, if we go back and we say, okay, great, Taylor, what are you trying to tell me to do? Sponsor an athlete who wins the Masters? Great advice. Well, let's dig a little deeper. Let's move down the scatter plot and examine a few more of these dots that represent high-performing ads that generated significant value for the business. And again, we find a similar principle at work. This is actually the third highest performing ad of all time. And in some ways, I cringe when I look at some of these because they're so basic. We were in the office just now and someone joked it looks like a potluck flyer where you're just sort of like showing off a bunch of things that are about to happen. And it is. It's offer design. It's a moment that they know there's pre-existing demand for the brand around Father's Day, one of the biggest moments of the year for the business. And it designs an offer that outlines very clearly 3 different ways that you can bundle and purchase product. So clarity of offer around a key moment on the calendar that drives disproportionate value capture on one of their biggest spend days of the year. So again, top performing creative is around offer design and clarity, or context and taking advantage of a moment. In all of these cases, none of this correlates or relates to, again, some creative design element. Now, to be clear, Travis Mathew has some of the best asset library in the world featuring some of the coolest people you could ever imagine or desiring to have in your ad. Show you what I mean. They have beautiful branded photos around cool product collections. This is a vintage paradise collection that they did for an apparel trip. They shot a bunch of these beautiful ads that had product photography and videos and all sorts of things around cool collection moments. They have visual sort of fashion-y style photo or videos for women's that come in stills and carousels and collections in every format of diversity that you could possibly imagine. They have ads featuring celebrities. Right now, we're running a collection with Reggie Bush that's doing substantially well. And again, we have a very diverse set of creative from carousels to images to stills to videos, all sorts of different formats. We have ads that are sort of product features, again, featuring Jon Rahm, one of the best players in the world, highlighting and breaking down the features and benefits of a product in every imaginable format. We even have some of the biggest celebrities in the world. So when you think about the best performing ads in the scatter plot, all of those ads are just dots in this plot. Now, some of those, in particular, this one here is one of these 1% ads. It's one of the ones that produced a high performing result. Reggie Bush has provided one of those dots recently as well. But the reality is there is no shortage of creative diversity, content formats. We have UGC, we have influencer content, we have all of the things in a very diverse set of imagery around product moments and releases and drops and promotions and sales and all of those things across the history of this business. But none of these that you see have outperformed this potluck ad. None of them have outperformed the moment in which Jon Rahm won the Masters. And so how do we think about this as we now go to do our own creative strategy? Well, the key is, as always, to plan for the median or average outcome. And that's where I've wanted to start to introduce another way to look at this ad breakdown. And this is what's called a histogram. Sometimes averages deceive us because those big tail end results skew the average point on the data set. But if we look at a histogram, and in this case, the bucket sizes, in other words, the ranges of the number of ads spent per dollar value, what you'll see is that almost of the 3,500 ads we analyzed, about 1,300 of them spent less than. And so as you plan for the kinds of outcomes that you expect to generate, this is why great creative strategy is rooted in volume enablement. Building a creative system that allows you to take lots of quality shots on goal is the key to producing persistently better outcomes for the business. Because if your plan and expectation is that every time you launch an ad, you're going to be producing a result that only happens 1.7% of the time, you're going to fail more often than you realize. But if we were to say, hey, we actually recognize that 1.7% of high-performing ads isn't that bad, and that means that roughly 1 out of every 70 ads that we create are going to produce one of those results, then we better, over the course of any given month, plan for 300 ads, 200 different ads that are going to guarantee us to get to the volume of spend that we need. Now, of course, somewhere in there, someday, there might be another one of these dots, an unexpected moment that drives disproportionate value capture, and being present with quality ads when that moment occurs matters. But as a business and at CTC, what we help our brands think about is how do we build a system to consistently take more and more quality shots on goal that allow us to accept the understanding of the odds and play a game that can increase the expected value of the ad account, even with the reality of a 1.7%. Now, do we want to try and improve that? And if we look at this if we were to draw a trend line in this graph, you'll see that it's actually improving over time. We're actually getting better at the frequency at which we're producing high-performing ads, which is a trend I would encourage you to track for your creative team or organization. Are you reaching higher level outcomes more often? It's an important part of the process. But in reality, most ads fail. And Outliers teach us interesting things about the reasons that those results can occur. And if you go back and watch the Bamboo Earth episode or Igloo Coolers episode, you'll recognize some of the other patterns that you might be able to use to inform the creation of your own outlier ad someday. But more than trying to create that, what I want to develop is a creative system that accepts the reality of the result of the numbers and helps me to succeed anyway. I want to plan for failure. I want to plan for a 1.7% success rate. And in light of that, produce a consistent set of quality shots on. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Outliers.